Hello beautiful people, welcome to my channel. If you're new to me, my name is Lauren and I am healing my chronic fatigue and adrenal fatigue by healing old emotional wounds from my past, primarily my childhood and before. And I'm sharing my journey with you so that I can help you in case you find that the root cause or contributing cause to your chronic fatigue or adrenal fatigue are energetic causes, are emotional causes. If you find that, then here on this channel, I'm talking about how to heal that. I have personally been able to heal my adrenal fatigue and most of my chronic fatigue by just healing emotional wounds. I mean, isn't that crazy? I have used no supplementation, no at all. The only thing that I've been doing, because I tried supplements and they all failed. They all made me worse. Everything that I tried made me worse. I don't know if that you have had that experience, but if you have, I interpreted that message to mean that's not where your answers are. Now you can choose to interpret it however you want, but to me, that was the message of stop looking in that direction, look somewhere else. And then when I finally looked into emotional causes and started learning how to heal these things by combining a psychological approach and a spiritual approach, and the mind with mind-body practices, that's when I've gotten healing. That's when I've been healing my illnesses. I don't have adrenal fatigue anymore. And that's all I've done are these mind-body healing spiritual practices. Mind-body spiritual psychological healing tools that I talk about on this channel. And when I said mostly my chronic fatigue, I will say my chronic fatigue is gone unless I get majorly emotionally triggered in some way and the whole illness comes crashing down for that period until I heal that, whatever's needing to come up right then, and then I'm better again. And I believe that when I heal, the evidence is showing me, and this might be true for you, that if you heal these things, if you heal all of them enough, the illness is not going to come back. The illness is not going to be, but you know, when you start out with having it all the time, and then you heal little pieces of this pain onion that I talk about, this emotional wound onion I talk about on this channel, when you heal little pieces of that, then over time you get more and more days of not being ill, not having chronic fatigue syndrome, or not having symptoms. And then but you still have some, you have intermittent periods of having some. In my experience, those happen when you've been emotionally triggered, or if the astrological events are just churning something up without you being triggered at all. Like the energy of the earth and the stars and the cosmos are bringing it up. And that's happening more and more these days because of the energetic acceleration that's happening on the planet. Today I'm going to talk more about the shame wound. More about this shame wound. And every time I say it, I think, oh my gosh, who wants to hear about this? But if you're trying to heal a shame wound, you probably want to hear it. That's my guess. That's my hope. And if you do, keep listening. If you don't, shut it off. You don't have to listen because nobody likes talking about shame. Who likes talking about shame? As I've said before, shame is one of those weird emotions that when you say shame, you feel shame. You feel shame about thinking about shame. You feel shame about saying the word shame. It's weird. Okay, maybe that's just because I have shame wounds. But I've heard that that's, I mean, my experience is that that's true for a lot of people from what I've been told. People don't want to talk about shame. It's like the most icky emotion that I see people react to out there. The reason that I'm talking about it is because I have been seeped in it. And so much so that it is a giant leap forward that I'm even able to record this video. And I'm so grateful for that. I would say it started coming up about 6 weeks ago. And there were some astrological things that started turning things up. This shame wound, this, you know, but the wound underneath shame is a response. If you've heard me talk about, there's sort of these layers of emotion. And always at the very core is some kind of pain, some kind of hurt. And then from the hurt, depending on the type of hurt and your own personal dynamic, your own personal, your personality, your personal tendencies, your past life experiences, whatever you're bringing, and then of course, your environmental conditions, all the things that you're bringing to a circumstance is going to impact how you're going to react and how your little child self is going to make sense of something that happens to you or some experience that you have in your childhood. So for me, shame was a very prominent reaction for me for anything, pretty much any pain that I experienced, that I have experienced in my life. Shame is just like, it's always attached to it. And what shame really is, in essence, is there's some belief, there's some pain, there's a pain, and then there's some belief that you turn towards yourself. So in some way you're saying, it's my fault, it's me, I'm the one that's wrong, I'm not, if I were good enough, if I could do that, it's all about self-doubt and self-beratement, and that in essence I'm not good enough. Something about me is not good enough. And as I've talked about so many times on this channel, but I will keep repeating it because it's just too important not to, that there is nothing wrong, there is no blame, there is no fault, there's no wrong in the child's conclusion that it was your fault. That was a defense. That was a way of coping with whatever your environmental conditions were showing to you while you were a child. And as children, we just don't have a lot of resources when we're a child. So we have a limited number of things that we can really do to cope with something that was too much for our little selves to handle. So whatever emotion that was, and the pain that was happening in that moment. And so turning it towards yourself in many ways was the safest option for you if you resonate with this, shame wound. And if you have any pronounced, really intense feelings of self-doubt or not being good enough, the other thing I always want to mention is that these things are not conscious until we make them conscious. So the beliefs and the wounds that we have when we're children, particularly before the age of 3 or 3 to 5, they were before we made distinct memories, and they just sort of became, the beliefs that we had just sort of became us. They spawned our personality and our tendencies and all this stuff. Our personality came from what, was evolving while we had these wounds, while we had these beliefs. And so we are not conscious of them until we go and we do the work of finding the unconscious wounds. Shame is so often an unconscious wound because, again, it comes from so early in our lives, and it just is this pervasive feeling, and it's common. It's so common to know that everybody has feelings of like lack of self-worth, and there are cultural aspects of it that contribute to our lack of self-worth, or lack of self-esteem. But there are, as we all know, there are people with much more harmed senses of self than others. I would say I was pretty far on the spectrum of having very little self-confidence, pretty much none, and belief in myself. But this was unconscious for me until this illness. This was my shame wound, the pain and the shame that came from it, and then all the self-doubt and everything that came from that was all unconscious to me until this illness, until I started peeling away these onion peels, these pieces of this pain onion, until I started diving into this stuff and became ready to heal and created this resonance of acceptance, or at least as much as I could, enough to allow this energy to start coming up. Until I did that, it was unconscious. I didn't know that I had a shame wound. And I'm saying this because this might be true for you. If you have chronic fatigue and adrenal fatigue, the shame wound, which is a sacral chakra wound, I believe, I'm theorizing, is a very common core component of this illness. I don't know that that's true, but that's what I'm theorizing because of the, I don't want to go into it all right now, but the energetics of the sacral chakra, the fact that it's all about water signs, and if you look at Chinese medicine, chronic fatigue is really about dampness, clinging. It's a cold, damp illness. It's referred to as a cold, damp illness. And so that means you have too much dampness in your body. And the dampness are, in my mind, is directly related to sacral chakra wounds. And because your sacral chakra is, you're the primary chakra where your childhood wounds are stored. So, you know, the base chakra, the first chakra, is all about safety and roots and what makes you feel safe in the world. And the second chakra, yes, is all about love and interpersonal relationships, but it is where that chakra is all about emotions. Emotions. Every chakra can have wounds and distortions in the energy flow of that chakra. And from painful experiences and from beliefs and from all these things. But the vast majority of emotions are stored in your sacral chakra. And I believe for so many people, these old wounds are a very prominent or the primary cause or contributing factor of these illnesses, of these fatigue illnesses. And so shame is a sacral chakra wound. And I've talked more about that in other shame videos too. I think it's going to be a theme, a category of videos for me, shame videos, because it's a theme that just keeps coming up, and I'm needing to make more and more videos, and I've got way more to talk about than I'll be able to today. So that's just one reason why I believe shame could be a significant portion of the big pain onion that you might have. Now, I know that powerlessness and helplessness wounds are involved. So for chronic fatigue and adrenal fatigue, you've got root chakra wounds, sacral chakra wounds, and solar plexus wounds. Your solar plexus is actually where your adrenals are, and your liver, and these that have this very important interplay. And that's where it is. So when you have adrenal fatigue or chronic fatigue, in my mind, you know that you've got solar plexus wounds, but you also have these other ones that I'm talking about. But it's really the lower three chakras, okay? But back to shame. As I said in the beginning, shame is one of these emotions that is so icky to feel. And I'm sorry that I'm saying icky, that I don't have a better word, but that's what comes out of me. When I want to describe it, I just want to say icky. It feels clingy and sticky and just like, ugh, I don't want to be in here. I don't want to be feeling this. Ugh, just get it away, get that feeling away. Yuck. And that's why I say that. That's why I use the word icky or yucky and does this resonate for you? Because I think this aspect of it, for me, makes it so much, just that much more unpleasant to sit in. And I am going to be so honest, I have been struggling badly with sitting in this one. My soul and my body have brought up the shame wound before, several times, in a big way. And I have, sat with it, learned how to move it, try to target it, pull it out, feel the emotion, do havening, accept that, just have really loving acceptance for that emotion, acceptance for the inner child, in order to let it go, and it has resolved, and I have peeled some of the layers of that shame wound. This one feels different in some ways. It's deeper, it's more painful, it's longer. I've really been struggling with it, and it brings up this point that I want to share. I've said before, and it might be obvious, but it might not, that, once you do this once, it doesn't mean that the rest will be easy. because every wound and every part of every wound that comes up is different. And the way to deal with it in some ways is different. I'm sharing with you the themes, but in some ways it's different. It feels different. Because it's a new part. You've healed, like if you've healed a little piece, a little layer, then what's left to heal is a different aspect of that wound. It's a different part of the onion. And so it's going to feel different. I always get in this position when I'm in the middle, in the trenches of healing one of this, trying so hard, like really working to let go, concentrate on up and out energy, to bring this energy up, because as I've talked about many times, with chronic fatigue and adrenal fatigue, if your causes are energetic, then you have all these defenses to shut down that emotion, these emotions that are causing the problem, that are causing this. They have created the stagnant energy, the stagnated energy that is creating the symptoms of this illness. That stagnated energy is stuck there because of the defenses. The defenses stop that energy from moving, and emotional energy has to move in order to be, keep a healthy, vital body, mind, and spirit. So if we block that energy, it gets stagnant again. So this whole process is learning how to stop the stagnation, in other words, allow it to flow. It's really hard when you have all these unconscious and built-in defenses. So again, that's what we're talking about here. So it's about leaving this accepting, loving space for these emotions, which is really hard to do about an emotion that you feel shame about. You feel shame about feeling shame. You feel shame about feeling ashamed. It makes the dynamic harder, in my opinion. I don't know if you feel that way, but I'm feeling my intuition this time is telling me that I need to have this cloistering period. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I don't know how long it's going to take. It's at 6 weeks, so it might be a little longer. But because I'm able to make this video, I'm wondering if it's starting to lessen a little bit. And from an astrological perspective, my guess is that it's going to end in about a week or two. We'll see. We'll see if I can move the wound enough to bring some healing. But my intuition is telling me that this is an extremely important period of healing, and that's why it's so deep. It's deeper and it's more intense. It's stuff that's coming up that has to heal in order for me to do the things that I want to do in the upcoming year. And the upcoming year is the things that I've been building up to learn to really making a drastic shift in my life. And this is an area that I have had very serious wounding in, about my ability, believing in my ability to change my life circumstances. I've always had this core belief. It's not unconscious anymore, but it was for most of my life. This core belief that I don't have the power to change my life circumstances, that the external forces are greater than me. Obviously, I've healed this wound enough because my illnesses are pretty much gone. And they are so much about power and self-empowerment. But they are still, these core beliefs, this core belief is still impeding me from actually changing my life circumstances in external ways, in financial ways, in career ways, to make these giant shifts in interpersonal ways, to make giant shifts in my life that I've wanted to change for so long. But this inner belief that I can't do it is always butting up against this conscious belief that I can. So when you have a conscious belief, Tony Robbins talks about this, I'm sure many others do too. But when you have a conscious belief that believes one thing and an unconscious belief that believes another thing, it's going to be an area, this is an area of your life that you're always going to feel tension, frustration. You're not going to be able to make a move. And that's why. It's because you've got these pulling energies. And if you're not aware of the unconscious energy, you're always going to be in turmoil in these areas of your life. That might be relationships, it might be career, it might be finances, it might be anything. Health. When you've got these polarized beliefs, that's what's going to happen. But even when you make the unconscious conscious, it's not that simple. It doesn't just vanish all of a sudden. You have to go in and heal that wound. Heal the core wound that created that belief. And that's when it will start to let go. the strings that are holding it going in that direction are going to start to let go, and you're going to start start pulling towards the conscious beliefs that I know that I'm powerful. I know that we all are powerful, that we all have the power to make changes in our lives. But that belief is still holding me back. And so I believe that this is happening during this period, and it's particularly intense at this moment, at this time, because it is what I must heal in order to do what I'm going to do next. And my unconscious knows that, my body knows that, my higher self knows that, and so it's bringing it up. So I just wanted to share that with you, because if you're dealing with a shame wound, please use these videos as support. You can do it. You can heal these wounds. And think about how I made perspective. Maybe my perspective on what's happening to me right now could help you make a positive perspective on what's happening for you in healing a shame wound if you're dealing with that right now. It's really tough, and I'm there with you. I am there with you. It's really tough, and there's so much self-doubt. There are so many I can'ts, it's too big, it's too this, it's too that, so many. And I'm going to make more videos as I make more progress getting through this wound, things that I learn, things that work, and lessons that I take from it. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you on the next video. Take care. Bye.